God bless everyone and God bless. I just want to get in here and talk about this person. I bet you guys know who this guy is right here. Well, yes, this is what the world calls the most famous person at his normal body, normal state where God had him, when God had mercy on him. This is the most infamous Mr. Stephen Hawkins, okay? Stephen Hawkins was normal. He was a normal guy, looked normal and everything. And let me tell you something. God knows us. God knows us from the beginning to the end. You know, he got married. Look at him. He's living his normal life. He got married, has a wife, and he also had kids too. But you can see right when he's walking with a cane, God was slowly doing something because God knew what the devil was going to use this man. And I'm here to talk about how the devil used him, and God still allowed this man to live a long life, and the devil used this man. And God will allow this thing to see how many people will believe in it, but God still will get the glory out of it. And God had to sit this man down and let this disease that God allowed him to have, this disease. It was a neurology disease that disabled his movements, and this, I think in the beginning it didn't disable his movements, but then the disease started taking really over, and it disabled him from talking, because God knew that the devil was going to use Stephen Hawking to come up with this Big Bang Theory mess. Okay, and the disease that he had, from what I'm looking at, I got off of Google. Google is it says Stephen Hawking developed a motor neuron disease when he was in his early 20s. Most patients with the condition died within 5 years. And according to the Motor Neuron Disease Association, average life expectancy after diagnosis is 14 months. But look how, even though that God still allowed this man to live. He still allowed this man to live, and to see how many people would still believe in this mess. And God used that disease to show you how powerful he is. God was not going to let this man walk in a normal state of mind and be around here talking all this mess, talking about some Big Bang Theory crap. Why would God do that? Why would he allow this man to actually use his normal motor skills just to talk about some Big Bang Theory that's, you coming up against God's power? And the Big Bang Theory is about all this space and time when the earth was formed, or the earth was formed with a big explosion. Yeah, right. The earth was formed by a powerful God. But God says that in Romans 1, chapter 1, verse 30, that backbiter, haters of God, despiteful, proud, boaster, inventors of evil things. Inventors of evil things. You go around and invent evil things like this machine that he was sitting on so he can still talk about this Big Bang Theory after God has shut your mouth, Stephen Hawking. He invented this evil machine. Actually, the machine could have been used for something good, but he invented this machine to be evil, to talk about this Big Bang Theory. He still wanted to get this across about this Big Bang Theory, about how the earth just out of the sudden exploded and formed itself. That doesn't even make any sense. But this man was the age of 76 when he died. He caught the disease longer. See how God still allowed this man to live a long life, but he had a reprobated mind. But God still let him live. People think God is so mean. God don't zap everybody away. God let Pharaoh live after all what he did to the children of Israel. God still let Pharaoh live for a long time. There are some people that he took away like that, but not all the time. God, that disease that Stephen Hawking had was supposed to been took him out. But you see the grace of God? God wanted him to see. And, Stephen Hawking, he wasn't even going to be around to actually see the glory of God come out of the sky when Jesus come out of the sky in all glory. But God allowed for this theory to stay around So God allows certain things to stay around so he can see who really is rooted and found and their foundation on him. And for people who really believe this mess, how does he know when the world began, when you wasn't even here? Okay? You wasn't even here when God walked this earth. So how would he know how the earth was formed? Don't you like scientists, they have stupid stuff like talking about they got a machine to tell how old a tree is. You created a machine to show you how old a machine is, and the machine is created by man. Please make that make sense, y'all. It's not going to make no sense at all. This is stupid. Scientists always trying to override God's divine power when they know they can't. And I'm so glad that God have saved some scientists, because after the end of their argument and their debate, they realized that the ones that come to common sense, the ones that come to their senses, realize that there is a God. There is a God. And when the ones that come to their common sense realize that, those are the ones I'd be so happy about. Like, finally, you just realize that all the studying you're doing doesn't mean nothing. That's why God says that the wisdom of the world doesn't mean anything. But when you have the wisdom of God, it means everything. God is the creator of all elements and particles. So if he's the creator of the elements and particles, how are you going to tell the creator when he know how many hairs on your head? Do you know how many hairs on your head, scientists? So all the scientists out there, do you know how many hairs on your head? No, but God does. Okay, he's all knowing. But back to what I was saying. Stephen Hawking, God, that's basically what I'm talking about when I was talking about in the other video about the struggles. About you got to be careful saying as long as you have breath to live. God let this man live all the way to 76 years old. And look, he still died. But he died in a reprobated mind. But God didn't take him away like that. God still let him live. He lived out his life. Will live out his life in a lie. But then he's living eternity in hell, in that wheelchair, in hell. Okay? His wheelchair is chained in hell. And that machine that you invented was just to do evil. Anytime you invent anything to do evil, that's called evil inventions. You didn't use that machine so you could talk, so you could be for people that's having neurology problems, having people having strokes that don't know how to talk correctly. They can use that machine. You use that chair and machine to go against God's divine power and order about the earth, how the earth came to pass. It came to pass by God's power, which you clearly don't understand, and he never will. Now he's in hell. He is going to understand, Stephen Hawking. But basically what I'm saying, I made this video. I just made a short video to talk about Stephen Hawking. I talked about him in the last video. But it goes to show that God doesn't take everybody's breath away that goes against him like that. Sometimes he do and sometimes he don't. And Stephen Hawking was one perfect example. And he lived all the way to 76 years old with living a lie and a reprobated mind. But God allowed this man to live. And then he found out the truth when he bust hell wide open. So, you guys be blessed.